Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Anjelia McGoldrick. She's a psychotherapist, she's a metaphysician, motivational speaker, and a founder and owner of Life in Balance Counseling and Wellness Center. So we'll talk about her life journey, her life story, about how she turned pain into purpose, helping others. Today she's helping others heal generational wounds, find forgiveness, and live by their own design. We'll talk about this and much more. Welcome to the show, Angelia.
Well, thank you, AJ. It's very good to be here. It's an honor. Thank you.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Angelia. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about healing and forgiveness and much more. And before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that people know who they are listening to.
Well, thank you, KJ. My name is Anjelia McGoldrick, and I was catapulted into adulthood at a very young age. I was pregnant by the time I was 13, out in the world in an abusive relationship that I only escaped with my life at 16 years old. Through this journey, I overcame so many obstacles, but I made a very difficult decision out of desperation and survival to leave my child behind. And I carried with me, AJ, a deep scarlet letter on my heart of guilt and shame that lasted a lifetime. And, I overcame a lot of obstacles and went on to become a successful entrepreneur and later a psychotherapist who has a passion for giving back for others. And, through this journey, I know that there are so many like me who have had difficulties and struggles, that have gone through trauma and abuse. And I wrote this book to help inspire them, to give them hope, and to let them know that they are not alone, that I do understand, and that you don't have to be stuck in the past, that there is hope for a better future.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is always hope for a better future. But in your case, how did you create a future for yourself when you were in such a difficult situation, as you said, when you had to leave your child behind? Then, when such a situation comes, everything looks so difficult. How did you create, a lot of light and purpose for yourself from there on?
Well, it was a difficult journey. I was 16 years old out in the world on my own. And, I did feel pretty hopeless. So I do know what that feels like. But I found some inspirational, motivational speakers that I started listening to, including Wayne Dyer, who made a tremendous difference in my life. And he helped me to understand that the past doesn't define us, and that there is hope for a better future, and that our thinking can really get us down, and we can get stuck in that emotional muck, and we can really create our own we can self-sabotage. And so he helped to give me inspiration to know that, your past doesn't define you. And it just takes one step each day in the right direction to figure out what it is that can bring hope into your life. And for me, I had, grew up very poor, didn't have a lot of support. And I knew that having an education and also people who own businesses were very successful. So I got busy studying for my GED and also started looking at creating a little small business for myself. And I started cleaning houses, and just day by day, I just kept giving myself positive affirmations and saying, I can do this. I am not going to be stuck in the past. I know that my future is brighter than this. And it really gave me the motivation that I needed to start to create a path forward, including going on to the University of Michigan and graduating with honors, and later going on to grad school and becoming a psychotherapist, and creating several businesses along the way that helped to catapult me into a successful entrepreneur and taking me out of that poverty loop.
Absolutely, absolutely. So your understanding of yourself, as you say, healing and forgiveness. About these things, did they come along with you all throughout, or you were trying to heal yourself all along the way? Or is it that you first achieved success and then you started thinking about, all this two words, especially, healing and forgiveness?
Yeah, so I think that our trauma sometimes drives us. And for me, because I had been so poor, KAJ, the thing that I was focused on was trying to get out of that poverty. And so for many years, I spent being an overachiever, working very hard, getting an education. And when we're busy, we don't really focus on those inner wounds that are within us. But, there were things along the way that would creep up. And, I would notice, and I did many years of therapy. But it wasn't until I was in my midlife when things started to slow down. I had created everything that I'd ever dreamed of. I had many careers along the way, became very successful, but there was still something missing within me. And, there was a heartache that I had, and I had a difficult relationship with my daughter, the child I left behind, and I couldn't seem to navigate it. And I really kind of hit an emotional bottom, and I knew that it was necessary for me to heal. And so I went on a deep healing journey for the last 5 years to really tap into that wound that was there so that I could really look within and see what was causing all the pain in my life. And, it's not an easy journey, but it certainly was one that was very helpful to help me to look at myself and to recognize the things that needed healing.
Absolutely. So what needed healing? Was it because you felt, bad about leaving your child? Should we understand that? Or was it, about your child not being in as closely connected to you, as one generally expects it to be? I'm not sure how it works, but were you in touch with your child? What was the nature? What do you mean when you say that I left my child behind? Help us understand from, in whatever ways you want to, so that people who are in difficult, situations in whatever relationship they can learn about these nuanced aspects of relationship, and perhaps learn something that can help them move forward, heal themselves, as well as get to that path of forgiveness.
Yes, it's a very good question. So when I was 16 years old, I left a very abusive relationship and ended up out of desperation and survival to leave my child behind with her paternal grandmother. And they made it very difficult for me to have contact with her, and even did a lot of things to put a wedge between her relationship with me, including parental alienation, which is where one parent speaks badly or creates a lot of chaos and trauma for the child by telling them that their mother doesn't love them or that they don't want them. And it was a very difficult hurdle to overcome. And I talk about it a lot in my book, The Child I Left Behind. And I spent many years trying to work through the relationship with them to have contact with my daughter, but it just didn't happen. And then when she was 13 years old, she was put in foster care because of the abuse that she was experiencing in her home with her dad and stepmother. And I ended up reaching out and getting custody of her. And it was a very difficult relationship because she came back to me very angry. We didn't know one another very well. And so it was a very difficult hill to overcome. And it took many, many years of just between her and I, we both had so much trauma. We butted heads an awful lot. And it took a lot of years and struggles. And I talk a lot about that in my book. And what's incredible is that, I was wounded and had a lot of struggles because of being in a survival mode. And so for me, I went to work and took a lot of time to build a financial foundation so that I didn't have to feel like I had to turn to other people to look outside myself. And for her, what I thought when she came back into my life is that she just needed someone to help guide her. And I was very much into success and education. And so I focused a lot on those things. And I wasn't in a place that I understood her own trauma. And so it took a lot of years to realize that she wasn't broken in need of fixing. I was wounded in need of healing. And so what I did is, and like I said, it took many years, I realized that I wanted a relationship that was healthy with my daughter. And so I took a journey inward and recognized that I had so many internal wounds that needed my attention. And it was the guilt and shame that I felt, KAJ, that was really the struggle for me. And that drove a lot of my behaviors with my daughter. I felt like it was my fault when things went wrong in her life. I tried to overcompensate and give her material things or try to fix things for her or give her things. And all along, all she really wanted was love and acceptance. And I was giving her the wrong thing. I was giving her what I thought I needed. And instead, I recognized through my healing journey that she just needed my time and attention. And that was what made all the difference. And it took a lot of forgiveness. I carried a lot of unforgiveness towards myself and blamed myself for so much. And unforgiveness, whether it be towards yourself or others, is like a massive emotional weapon that you turn upon yourself. And, the greatest gift that we can give ourselves is to recognize that hurt people, especially when we're wounded. And that the greatest thing that we can do is to find compassion and love and recognize that, people do make mistakes, but it doesn't have to define them. Oftentimes we do the very best that we can when we're going through difficulties. And being able to have some compassion towards others and ourselves, it really truly is the greatest gift that we can give ourselves. And, in forgiving myself, what I learned was that being able to take responsibility for my mistakes and turning to my daughter and letting her know that she's an amazing human being and that I made a lot of mistakes. I was a very young girl. I was only 13 when I got pregnant with her, and I had no parental support. I was out in the world on my own, and that I always loved her. And that has made all the difference in our relationship, just being able to be humble and kind and listen without being reactive and really hearing her story and listening to her and showing her that I truly care and that I want to build this relationship and make it better for a brighter future.
Absolutely. So how did you know that you were healed? How did you know that you have actually forgiven yourself? What was the role of your daughter? What did you expect from her? How did she start responding to you? What is how did that response from your daughter help you heal or forgive yourself?
Yeah, so for many, many years, AJ, we didn't speak. Or if we did, we would just had this deep, tumultuous relationship. And it was just so tragic because we both loved each other so deeply, but we just couldn't get past our wounds. And for me, I really needed healing. In 2019, I was in a very difficult place and just emotionally not well, physically not well, and spiritually broken. And I took a journey to Costa Rica and did a plant medicine journey, which absolutely changed my life. And what it did was it pulled back the layers of my wounds, and it helped me to see inside the things that I needed to focus on. And it helped me to see my daughter and to see what I had done, the judgment that I had heaped upon her because of my own guilt and shame, how that I had overhelped her and overcompensated. And when I came back from that journey, and it was a long journey, it didn't happen overnight. I recognized that I needed to heal this relationship and forgive myself and take responsibility for the choices that I made and the mistakes that I made. And, my book is called The Child I Left Behind, A Mother's Journey Toward Healing and Forgiveness. I believe healing continues. It's not something that's a one and done, but I think as we learn and recognize our mistakes, we can grow and we continue to heal. And I reached out to my daughter when I was writing this book, and I let her know that I was going to be talking about our story. And, that began the conversation with her. And it was helpful to hear her insights and understandings and to really get to a place of just clarity so that we could start to begin the path forward. And we are still working on it. It's not perfect. There's been a lot of wounds there. And, I just know that forgiveness for myself and for those that hurt me really makes, being able to forgive was the greatest gift that I gave myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Angelia. So you are also a psychotherapist. Some relationships are very deep, but deeper are the wounds sometimes.
Absolutely.
How do you advise people, or do you advise how should people look at such relationships and let each other be in their own space without trying to, unnecessarily try to heal or forgive or self forgive and all, because that is the best way, to live it best for everyone else. Is it a difficult choice for people, or for you to advise? Because in your personal life, you have tried and keep on trying. How do you balance both these aspects of, your personal life as well as the practical part of advice that may sometimes be necessary in the line of your work?
Well, KJ, what is that it's easier to see things from other people's perspectives. It's easier for, excuse me, I misspoke. It's easier to see other people and have clarity about what's going on outside of yourself than it is to look at your own self in the mirror. It's not an easy journey. And, as a therapist, I am a marriage and family therapist as well. And, what you look at is what is being triggered in the relationship, what is going on there. And what I know is that, as I said, hurt people because we're wounded inside and we project our hurt out onto others and we blame them and we put that all outside of ourselves. But what I know is that any time that you are triggered, stirred up, or upset, it's about you. It's not about the other person. And so if I can help people to understand that message, that if you're upset about anything, there's something going on inside of you. There's an inner wound that hasn't been dealt with. And so by being able to turn within and find out what it is exactly that's causing that trigger, that's causing that pain, and helping that person to work on that wound, then we can move forward and we can help them to learn the steps of, being able to communicate in a way that's healthy by using I statements. I'm feeling sad. I'm upset. I'm angry. When you do X, don't put the dishes away. It makes me feel. So learning some really good communication skills and being able to be open and honest and come into the conversation without that defense mode that's up that we often have that continues to keep us in a triggered mode, in a defense mode. And when we can come in with compassion and love, with the motivation of healing the relationship rather than being right, because so often, clients want to be right rather than be loved. And when I can help them understand that being right isn't going to get you what you're wanting, but being able to have love and compassion towards the other person is going to make all the difference. And I definitely know that's made the difference in my relationship with my daughter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So your book, The Child I Left Behind, A Mother's Journey Towards Healing and Forgiveness.
Yes.
Who is this book for?
I wrote this book to help others, but it absolutely helped me. It's for people who have gone through difficulties and struggles, who've had trauma and abuse, who feel stuck and don't know how to get out of that difficult situation. By reading my journey, a young girl catapulted out into the world at such a young age with no parental support, how that I was able to overcome so many obstacles and difficulties to find success, and not only financially, but also emotionally And to be able to heal a difficult relationship is very powerful. And I know there are so many people out there that struggle with many of these issues. And it also helps to look at your parenting and how to be a better parent by being able to recognize that we can't spill our wounds upon our children, that we really need to recognize that when we're triggered or upset, we need to take a moment and step back and to recognize, like you said earlier, that this is their journey, that each and every person has their own journey and they are going to make mistakes, but it is their life and it isn't ours. You know, children come to us as a gift and they have their own life to live. We are just their guide, and they're going to make decisions and choices that are best for their path and what their soul is guiding them to. You know, we all have a divine light within, and oftentimes it gets covered up and dimmed by the difficulties of life. And I wrote this book for those people that are looking to find their light again, to connect with their inner self again, and to find a way to heal and to find wholeness and happiness and find that brighter future for themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is so much to learn about all this from you, Angelia, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about all this from you, and learn about your story about healing and forgiveness. What is the best way for them to do so?
Well, my book is called The Child I Left Behind, A Mother's Journey Toward Healing and Forgiveness by Anjelia McGoldrick, and it's Anjalia McGoldrick. And they can find it on Amazon.com or check out my website, AnjeliaMcGoldrick.com.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much. You have a great